That's an organization where we help people who are grieving move from being stuck to being unstuck and find grace in their grief and also find purpose in their pain. I've really never experienced anything as painful as grief in my life. I discovered myself. I healed myself from the grief I was passing through, and I decided to turn all of that grief into purpose. I lost my husband and my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and a couple of friends all within a span of 1 year. And I had 4 kids, and I felt the whole world was crashing on me. Grief kills. My mother-in-law passed from grief. My father-in-law passed from grief. My mom almost died from grief. And the grief of just one man, my late husband. I almost passed from grief. But I tell you, I'm a living proof that a fresh start is possible. That you can smile again, you can laugh again, you can have a purpose again.
Life flows like an endless ocean of stories. We often miss these precious tales as we rush through our days, too consumed by daily struggles to notice the poetry swirling around us. Yet within these stories lie the keys to our past, sparks for our creativity, and fresh wings to fill our sails. I am Abhra, a writer based in Melbourne, in quest of those stories with diverse voices that tell them from every corner of the world. Welcome to Stories and Stanza. Hi Ruth, welcome to Stories and Stanza. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm good, and you?
I'm good, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I'm looking forward to hear your ideas. For our audience, could you briefly introduce yourself, please?
Thank you. My name is Ruth Hephzibah, and I'm the founder of Grift to Grace International. That's an organization where we help people who are grieving move from being stuck to being unstuck and find grace in their grief and also find purpose in their pain. So I also am a founder of Echoes of Life, which is an organization where we help those who have journeyed through cancer, caregivers and families, and also survivors to navigate all of it, all that has to do with the cancer, and help them with research and other ways that they will be able to get help in whatever form that they need it. Basically, I am a grief coach and a fresh start advocate. So what I do mainly is because I've been through all this in my journey, and I help people to move from wherever they are to have a fresh start. So I help them from being stuck to being unstuck. And I know that a fresh start is possible. You can actually start afresh. You can start again and still get to that point that you've always desired to be. So basically, that's what I do. And my journey has been a very profound one. And I'm a qualified mental health advocate, and I do a lot. All my life, I've been working with people, with children, and my life is categorized with helping and philanthropy, and as well as trying to help people move from their stage to the next stage.
Thank you for doing such a wonderful service to humanity, to people, and helping those who may be stuck at some point of their life with grief. In my podcast, this is a segment titled Fail With Me. It is to explore wellness, mental health, emotional intelligence, and negative emotions that we may consider failure. But if we look into it, then it tells us what is holding us back, and then we can move on. Grief is a topic that some of my listeners have requested if I could bring in to the podcast. Personally, I have faced a very difficult period with grief because I lost my father before COVID, and it was quick. He was okay the week before, and on one day he was just gone. It took me a long time to understand and accept his passing, and my family was shattered. It took me a long time to understand and process that grief. I am keen to hear your ideas on how you work with people and how you help them move on. To get started, can you help us understand grief? What are the stages of grief? Why do we feel stuck? What are some of the misconceptions in the society about grief?
Okay, thank you. So basically, grief is just a natural response to loss. So that's response that we give basically because it's something that irrespective of how you feel, you just have that natural response, how and it is different with everybody. So it's not just about mourning a dead or or anything or the loss of something that you have actually lost or something, but it encompasses all forms of losses as much as it can. Most people believe that grief is basically when you lose a loved one, when someone dies. That's not it all. Sometimes we lose our job, sometimes we lose relationships, divorce, children, we lose ourselves. And we grieve them. There are just so much. So we lose identity, we lose our health, we lose our dreams. There are so much that we can lose. And at the end of it all, we start grieving. And it is really like complex and emotional. So it is an emotional journey most times that touches every aspect of our lives. And a lot of people are grieving or they have grieved um, at one point of their life. Maybe some people grieve a lot, especially as kids. Oh, why did he talk to me like that? And you're grieving. So just so much that people grieve. And it includes our physical and our mental and spiritual well-being. So there are just so much that happens when we grieve. And but people basically believe that grief is just for those people who lost a loved one. No. If you've been divorced and you had to pass through a lot of trying to readjust, you definitely have to pass through some level of grief because you lost something. You lost a relationship. You lost time that you spent with your partner. You lost so much also. And you lost trust, depending on what actually led to your divorce. And it goes all in all. So when we talking about grief, basically, it doesn't have a timeline. There's no timeline to grief. People often expect that you get over it. Oh, I can remember when I lost my husband, and a lot of people just feel, oh, she should be able to just get over it. It is not really as easy as people think. It's not just like getting over it, but it is something. Grief is something that works with you. Is a lifetime thing. So when it comes to you, you lost something and it's stuck. There is a scar there. There is a part of you that is missing, right? So what you just need to do most times, like I always advise people, is just to understand that, yes, I've been through it, but we need to be able to navigate it. We need to find healing because grief can be so painful. I've really never experienced anything as painful as grief in my life. And but you can find healing in it. And when you find healing, what happens? You can laugh over those things. You can laugh over those situations. You can begin to see purpose in your situation. And grief is not bad after all. There are good aspects of grief. When you navigate it in a very healthy way and it's not complicated, then you begin to understand that, yes, it is not bad because you begin to learn lessons from whatever grief that you undergone. And lastly, I believe that people believe that grief is purely emotional, but I tell you, it affects us physically and it affects us spiritually. In fact, it affects your health. Grief can cause a lot of issues to your health. When I was grieving, I have never really been ill in my life. But at some point in my life, because of grief, I developed PTSD. I developed chronic stress. I developed borderline cholesterol. Just a lot. The list was just getting longer. And I went to my PCP at some point, and he told me, you have allergies. I've never had allergies in my life. And they were able to give me almost 200 things I'm allergic to. And I said, whoa, how come? And when God healed me, and I had to go through all of these processes, and I went back, I realized that all the allergies were gone. Why? Because I discovered myself. I healed myself from the grief I was passing through, and I decided to turn all of that grief into purpose. So, what are those stages of grief that you can have? There are just a lot. People believe that there's like a basic standard that we have stages of grief, which is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, right? But these are not linear. These are just like what a standard that was placed, right? But I tell you, it doesn't work like it is said right now. There are it's just like a framework. It's not like a rule book, because people believe, oh, I need to go through the denial stage first. Then after the denial, I need to go to the anger stage. I need to now get to the bargaining stage. I need to get to the depression stage, then the acceptance stage. Sometimes it doesn't work like that. Sometimes you start from the beginning. Some other people, the anger, and they remain there for the rest of their lives. Some other people, the depression, and they never cross that stage to the rest of their life. And the denials and all of that. So they are just like framework. They are not like a rule book for anyone. So people move through them in different ways and revisit certain stages as they heal. Yes. But along the line, I went through most of these stages, and I realized that when I was dependent on this, I realized that there was no way I wasn't receiving my healing, because I never got to the acceptance stage. And at that point, I developed my own model. God gave me this model, and I developed this model that I use now. And my model is very simple and is working for everyone. It's a very simple one, doesn't take time, it's so simple. And that is just 3 B's, as simple as it is. The first one is be better, which means that healing starts with you. So you need to accept the situation. You need to forgive the situation. Then the second one is the best experiences you originally undermined. That is be you. So you have to be. You have to see yourself. You have to understand yourself again. You have to get back to yourself, the original person that you've always been. And the last one that model we use is for you to be a change idol. Now you have to now start sharing. You have to be that person who will be able to share what your experiences now with other people and help other people to heal in their process. So grief, this process that I just told you is working, because I tell you, when you have a situation, there's no need beating around the bush. There's no need saying, no, it didn't happen. Oh, no, it didn't happen. I have a personal story to that. And when I always thought it didn't happen, I died. Oh, no, you must come back. I died. I died. And when I died, oh my God, that's a story for another day. Then there were other things. When I thought, I know I cannot accept the situation, depression came in, anxiety came in. And just a lot came in. That was when I had all of those ailments that came up. I lost myself. I lost finances. I lost everything. I lost me. I lost my self-esteem. I lost this person that you're seeing here. I lost hope in life. I lost it all. And when I developed this model of acceptance, of now be better. So number one was that, yes, I took a personal decision that, yes, first stage is to be better, right? So I need to be a better person, which means I need to accept the situation. I need to understand that whatever happened, I lost my husband and my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and a couple of friends all within a span of 1 year. And I had 4 kids, and I felt the whole world was crashing on me. And I didn't know what to do. He was a breadwinner, and I was just there. And I realized that, yes, I needed to accept the situation. I needed to understand that, yes, this thing has happened. And in that process of losing all this, I was angry with the situation. I was angry with God. I was angry with the people around me. I was angry with everybody, everything. I was just not happy. Though people see me on the outside smiling and jubilating and doing all sorts, they didn't know how I felt inside. But when I took charge of this model and decided to use it and I accepted, then I forgave. Forgiveness means that you need to forgive yourself. You need to forgive the situation. You need to forgive the people or the thing. You need to forgive everything and let go. Because by the time you have this concept of letting go, it means that, yes, I have let everything just go. You begin to find peace in the process. You begin to understand who you are. You begin to know that, yes, this is me. You begin to see the grace in that situation. You begin to see why God allowed it. You begin to see why those things happened. You begin to find purpose in your grief. And from there, you'll be able to now go to being you, because that was the next stage that I got to be able to discover me again. I realized that, yes, there was Ruth before Emmanuel, right? There was somebody, there was a lady, there was a potential in me that made my husband marry me, right? And there was this potential in me that made the world accept me before I met him. That being needs to come out again. And I had to bring out the me. I had to discover me again. I had to learn to be me again. So you need to now begin to understand you. And like I said, be you is a very simple acronym for best experiences you originally undermine. The best experiences, what are those things that you used to do? What are those things you think you can do? So you begin to, and what are those things also that yourself, your practice together, your family traditions, because you're no longer grieving so bad, in a very unhealthy way. Now you begin to see the grace in what that person or that situation did. Okay, for instance, if it was a divorce, for instance, you begin to see that, oh, actually, the person I married was this initially, right? You begin to see the grace in that relationship that you all had before there was a broken link. You begin to appreciate those things again. Then you begin to see yourself again. You begin to understand who you are again. You begin to understand and begin to see your experiences, my childhood experiences and all of that, my skills. You begin to see all these things, begin to write them down. I do a lot of journaling. I write a lot. So you begin to write them, you begin to list them out, you begin to research again because it's a new process all over again because you're starting afresh. And when you now move from that stage, because this stage can take how long you want it is dependent on you. So when you now do all of these things, then you begin to find grace. You begin to find purpose because it's at this stage that you begin to say, yes, where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do I see myself in 3 years? Where do I see myself in 1 year? Where do I see myself in 6 months? You begin to break them down. Where do I see myself in 3 months? And where do I see myself in 1 month? And where do I see myself in 1 day? So those little baby steps, you begin to take them again. You begin to move again. You begin to walk again. Then you see yourself running. And you're like, whoa, I never knew I could achieve as much as I am achieving right now. When we're talking about setting goals, we are not saying that you should set like elaborate goals that you cannot achieve. No, we're saying that you set those baby goals as tiny as waking up and getting out of your bed, as tiny as making your bed when you wake up, as tiny as moving to your kitchen and making a meal for yourself. Because when you're grieving, sometimes these things are really difficult to do. As tiny as going out and taking a sunbath, as tiny as taking a walk, talking to people, lying down, and even sleeping. That's it, as tiny as that. Oh, today I'm going to make sure I sleep. And I sleep. Those little baby steps are very important because they will help you and take you to the next stage, that place that you really want to be. So when you're able to do all these now, I believe so much in storytelling. I believe in sharing my story. I believe in encouraging people with what I've been through. When you begin to share your story and begin to tell people how they can navigate it, how you did it, right? You find healing in that process. The more you share, sometimes I share and I cry. Sometimes I share and I'm happy and I'm smiling. Sometimes I'm sharing and I just remember one part I never shared before and I never thought was important and I share and it brings more healing. So it is very key. It is important that you do all of this stuff. And when you do them, you'll be so shocked how far it can go. So basically, that's what grief, for me, that's what grief is. And like I said, grief affects your body. Grief is not something that you need to stay in because when you stay there, it becomes complicated. I have a slogan, I always say it: grief kills, complicated grief kills even faster. And there is one killer in this whole world, and that one killer is what? Grief. So you don't want to be stuck in it. You don't want to get there.
Thank you for sharing your journey and such beautiful thoughts that can help us turn grief into healing and into getting better. You had your challenges with grief and now you are helping others, you are motivating people. What was the turning point when you realized that you not only you can get unstuck from grief, but also you can bring a difference to other people's lives, and the idea that you shared very simple principles to work with grief and overcome those barriers.
Yeah, my life changing moment was when like I said, I went, okay, they are in different stages though. So the first one was that one, my husband passed during COVID somehow when COVID was just leaving, and we didn't have enough resources. We didn't have places to go to navigate grief. And in my journey, most times, so when I started understanding these things, and I got so low in my journey and realized that I had acute stress. I asked my PCP, I'm like, what is the turning point? How do I not take medication for this? How do I stop it? How do I make sure that I'm free from this? And he said, you're grieving. And if you can just calm down and slow down, then you'll be able to heal. I took a break and I realized that really it worked. So I knew with all that I do, because I'm a minister of God and I do a lot of counseling and other stuff. And I started talking to other people who have been in this. So I realized that in my journey, I was not alone. There were a lot of people who were undergoing that too. My kids, their friends, and I started with them. I started with other friends I had. And I realized that it was helping them. Then we set up the nonprofit, which was the first one, the Echoes of Life. Like I always say, when we set up the Echoes of Life, the first year after my husband passed, we set up Echoes of Life. We started it. I deteriorated in grief. I'm telling you, it was so difficult for me to rise. And I said, no, it can never be. So I healed myself and I had to be an advocate for other people. And I said, no, this is it. Grief kills. My mother-in-law passed from grief. My father-in-law passed from grief. My mom almost died from grief. And the grief of just one man, my late husband. I almost passed from grief. My kids were grieving too. So you can imagine what one loss could cause. One loss could take up to 10 or 15 lives in just one sitting. So if you're not careful, you realize that a lot of people go down. And I understood, I now started because in my journey, I'm a psychosocial rehabilitation specialist. So each time I go out and do my job, my normal job, I realize that most of those people who go into drugs and substance abuse and all that stuff, the underlying factor there, the reason why they do what they do is because at one point in their lives, there was a broken link, grief, that was never addressed. There was trauma. There was something, there was lack of trust somewhere, and it was never addressed by anyone. And it builds up, and today they're who they are. So I knew that, yes, I needed to speak up. I needed to get people to share their stories. Because the more you tell people what you've been through, then the other person understands that I'm not alone in this journey. And I tell you, like in Echoes of Life and in Grief to Grace, especially in Grief to Grace podcast, when people share their stories, their grief stories, you realize that there are so many different kinds of grief from religion, grief from just so much. Abortion, grief from miscarriages, grief from just a lot. People grieve a lot of things. And they just keep grieving and it's affecting their lives, and people don't understand that these people are dying. And I decided to start sharing. And to God be the glory. I have been able to really speak up. I've been speaking and talking to people, attending conferences and talking to people, going to churches and other places, talking to people. And I have just one story. And that story is that there is grief, but there is a way. Grief is not bad after all. You can start afresh. That you down doesn't mean that you are down. You can actually begin anew.
Very well said. I was reflecting back on my life, onto some of the things that I think affected me negatively. It is, of course, passing of someone close, but there are different other things that can cause grief, and one of them was, for me, was heartbreak. When I look back, that I was stuck there for a long time, and I felt that I lost something in that struggle. I think there was shame, there was guilt, and there was a lot of other things that made me feel that I'm not fully being myself. You are talking about fresh starts, and you are inspiring people to come out of grief or that phase. What I can, when I look back or in those difficult times of my life, I feel that I my friends and family, they're saying, it's a stage, it'll pass. I want to hear from you. What would you like to suggest for someone who feels stuck? It can be guilt, it can be shame, it can be self-loathing, and a number of negative emotions that can make us keep doing the same thing again and again in a repetitive cycle. And
It's very possible. So you've just said there are just a lot that can keep you and you can be stuck. And most times, some people, it takes them 20 years. Some people, it takes them 30 years. Some people, it takes them a lifetime. And they are just there being stuck. But I tell you, I'm a living proof that a fresh start is possible. That you can smile again, you can laugh again, you can have a purpose again, you can do what you really want to do, what you've been known for again. You can begin anew, right? Okay, for instance, when my husband passed, I dropped out of school because I was grieving. But when I embraced Fresh Start, I graduated. When he passed, my GPA went as low as 1 point something, all the way from 4 point. But I still graduated with honors. It is possible to be able to start again and get it right. It takes you. And that's why we say healing begins with you. So the first thing is to make up your mind and say, yes, this day, put the date down and say, today, call your name Ruth. You are a new being. You are starting afresh. A fresh start is possible. And get started. When you get started, like I said, I don't use too long stories. I use those 3 models I just gave to you. It's very simple. Because the very moment you accept, that's the day you write it down. Because you've accepted the situation, right? Now there's a problem. So you say, yes, there is a problem. And I'm accepting that, yes, there is a problem. So you begin to forgive. What is that thing that kept you stuck? When you look inward, it's because there is unforgiveness in the journey. For every grief story, there is unforgiveness. Either you've not forgiven yourself, or you didn't forgive the situation, or you didn't forgive the person that has done that to you. So you need to just forgive. It's difficult to forgive, but it is possible to forgive. Because when you accept, then you can forgive. So you now begin to forgive and begin to rediscover your true self. Begin to rediscover your true self. Begin to say, this is who you are. Make positive affirmations every day. Instead of saying, I'm a failure, say, I'm a go-getter. I set goals and I achieve them. So you say every day, oh, this situation has kept me stuck in one place. No, I'm a fast pacer. I'm moving forward. Just keep saying it. Keep saying it. Never stop saying it. You know where you want to be. Like I was talking to someone the other day and I said, because she was coming from heartbreak, like you say, and she was almost stuck. I said, no, don't let that situation keep you there. Don't let that person meet you there. Then in 5 years, the person will say, oh, she's still in that position and the person is moving forward. Set a goal for yourself and rediscover yourself and be a better person. If you need to go back to school, then go back to school and get those degrees. If you need to set up a business, then set up a business. If you need to stand up from your house and start making friends, maybe you've not been making friends, then go into those circles and begin to make friends. So begin to do things that you feel you can never do without that situation. Maybe it's loss of job. Then be your own boss. Who said you needed to have money to start a business? There are 1,001 businesses you can do without a dime. So why wait? Why rot in there? Oh, if you think, oh, no one is ever going to love me again, then go find love. Begin to have self-love, because by the time you look at yourself in the mirror, you realize, if I look back at those days, I was shattered. I didn't have self-care because I didn't see any need for it. But in my own opinion, I thought I was doing my best. But the very moment I told myself the truth, I took myself to the salon. I made myself a very good hair, right? I made sure fix my nails, got all my pedicure, my manicure done, did my face and every stuff, put back my lashes and whatever I needed to do again. And I knew that I needed to be me again and have that self-confidence again. So you need self-care. You need the meditations. You need to do your breathing exercises. You need to go to the gym again. You need to listen to some good music. You need to make your own music. You need to sing again. You need to take yourself to the karaoke and sing, jump, laugh, take a drink. It's very key. Make yourself happy. Don't gloom over all that you've been through. There's so much problems in the world to add yours, to make yourself a problem to yourself. Don't you understand that? So most times it's better for you to just know that, yes, I am me. I'm Ruth Hephzibah. I am that lady that is definitely going to change the world. I am a go-getter. I set the pace and others follow. Just say something good about yourself. And I tell you, that's just those little journeys that we're talking about are the only things that you need, because all this that we're saying is that you need to let go. That's it. Let go, because you're holding on to something. And when you hold on to that thing, you're not seeing the front. You have baggage right there. It's heavy. When you offload it, you'll be light. So it's very key. You can do that. So begin to practice kindness, begin to practice, like I said, mindfulness, begin to set boundaries for yourself, because that was one of the things I did. Because when you're in this kind of situation, you are vulnerable to a lot of stuff. So begin to set boundaries. Begin to do most of these things. Oh, if where you've been, you go to certain places, you're not appreciated there, then don't go there. Change the circle to where you will be appreciated, where they will appreciate you. So don't say, oh, the whole world don't like me. It's because you are in the wrong circle. So leave that circle and go to the next place. And change it. Go to places where they will appreciate you, where you do little, and they begin to say, whoa, you're so a genius. So there are just so much that you can do. So begin to engage in all sort of activities that give you peace. And remember, like I said at the beginning, healing is a process, and healing begins with you. So it's very okay not to be okay. So there are days you cannot stand up, is okay. There are days you don't want to do nothing, is okay. But it's also okay to take it one day at a time, one step at a time, not bogus dreams, little steps, baby steps, tiny steps that are achievable. That's all that you need.
Thank you for explaining that so well. These ideas are not only for someone who is grieving, but to support someone around us who might be grieving. I find that deeply. And I think I asked you the things that I wanted to ask. But is there anything you'd like to share with the audience?
Yes, I want to share something. And it's very simple. Community is crucial, whether it's family, friends, or a faith group, or a support network. Having people who understand and lift you up will make all of this difference. And also, it's also very important, I cannot underestimate it, to set those small achievable goals for yourself, small achievable goals for self-care. Focus on your nutrition, exercise, your sleep is very key for your physical health. Practice all of your mindfulness and your journaling for mental clarity. And also try as much as possible to nurture all of your connections that you've got all through these years. Don't break them. Don't break them because you're grieving. No. Nurture them as much as you can because healing requires a holistic approach. It starts from you to the people. So you don't say, oh, I'm healing myself and you offend others and make other people grieve. No. So you healing yourself and you healing the world. So healing begins from you, but you are a change agent to change the world.
Thank you for sharing such heartwarming thoughts and ideas with us today. And I would get your details and I'll put it in the episode description for anyone listening if they want to reach out to you, if they want to work with you, and they can get to know about your foundation. And it means a lot for me that you came and you shared such a beautiful personal story, such an inspiring story with us today. Thank you for taking the time to talk to Stories and Stanza.
Yeah, and if there's anyone that is grieving, I can give a slot to one person who truly needs help. So if you need it, really, I'll be able to give you like a coaching, 1 hour coaching for all this that we're talking about. And also, I can also give 2 copies of my books to your audience.
Wonderful. I'll get the details from you and I'll put it in the episode description. Thank you once
Thank
again.